Lack of regulatory clarity has some altcoin promoters taking a victory lap. Is it too soon? The Daily Hodl published this on April 27th. Coinbase will win lawsuit against SEC, predicts pro XRP lawyer. Here's why. Now, keep in mind, if Coinbase wins their lawsuit against the SEC, this does seem to bode positively for XRP. So of course, since he's pro XRP, he naturally wants Coinbase to be victorious, even if what Coinbase was doing wasn't entirely correct. Attorney and XRP supporter John Deaton is optimistic that Coinbase will prevail in its lawsuit against the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. The U.S. crypto exchange will emerge victorious in the lawsuit seeking to compel the SEC to disclose whether it has accepted or denied a petition that Coinbase filed in 2022. According to Deaton, the law is on the side of the U.S. crypto exchange. He doesn't actually mention why, though. He just says that the law is on their side, even though it really isn't, because right now it's completely a gray area, and the SEC can really just come back with pretty much whatever they want. They just haven't responded yet. Anyways, let's continue. I'm predicting a win, just like I predicted early on that Grayscale would win regarding a BTC spot exchange traded fund. Oh, so because you were right about Grayscale having a Bitcoin ETF, therefore, you must be correct about this. So this is the type of stupidity that we see in many places. This is actually, if I'm not mistaken, this is the Dunning-Kruger effect. And I think it's absolutely hilarious. We do see this happen a lot of times. Essentially, when we make one right decision, and it's a big right decision, like let's say, for example, buying Bitcoin back in 2013 and hodling. Well, if you made that one great decision, it turns out that every other decision since then that you have made will most likely also be the most correct decision because you've made this one decision. So, of course, that's how this article is being framed, right? He was right about this, so he must have an idea about that. It's such bullshit. And, of course, people who aren't paying attention, people who are filled with hopium, people who have massive XRP bags, they're reading into this like, oh yeah, no, he's going to be right. We're going to win. I researched Mandamus writs 2.5 years ago. Coinbase is on solid legal grounds over here. Over a year ago, I said the crypto industry will win in court. The SEC does not have the law on its side. I don't know if I agree with that. They are the Securities and Exchange Commission. Pretty sure that they're closer to the law than some shitcoin. I digress, though. I could be wrong. The facts that the SEC has created the last 6 years put them on the losing side. Now, the author of the article goes on to describe what a mandamus is. A mandamus writ is a court order compelling a government official to properly fulfill their official duties or correct an abuse of discretion. I went and did a little more digging into that. That's not... So, you see, the framing of that definition is to make it seem like XRP stands a chance, but let's go take a look. Okay, so this is out of law.cornell.edu. A writ of mandamus is an order from a court to an inferior government official ordering the government official to properly fulfill their official duties or correct an abuse of discretion. So here's the key, though. So part of that definition is correct, but here's the other piece, which really matters if you ask me. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, mandamus is an extraordinary remedy which should only be used in exceptional circumstances of peculiar emergency or public importance. XRP isn't of public importance, okay? It's not. It's not. There's no exceptional circumstance or peculiar emergency. You're just some shitcoin company that doesn't want to get frickin' wrecked because of your own greed and your decision to mess around in a gray area. So this is nonsense. So I like how they did that. That was a good move from the lawyer, right? He picks just that one line, but doesn't explain really the nuance of what that really means. But again, I'm not a lawyer or anything like that. I just, went and simply Googled what a Mandamus writ is and went and found the cornell.edu link and dug into it. And it seems to me like XRP and Coinbase, right? Coinbase, who filed the petition specifically. Again, I'm not seeing of peculiar importance, and I'm not seeing public importance. And I'm also not seeing a peculiar emergency. I know that for Coinbase, it may seem like it's a peculiar emergency, but for the rest of the market at large, I think it's safe to say it's zero fucks given. The SEC is required by law to respond to petitions within a reasonable time, but they have not yet responded to our petition from last July, which is why we filed our action in court today. I took a look to figure out what this reasonable amount of time is. If somebody in the notes could possibly give me a link to what that actual time frame is, because I had no way of finding it. So a reasonable amount of time seems to just be some open-ended vague comment. Or I should say open-ended vague definition in order to ensure that the government can just take its sweet ass time. Or I should say the SEC can take its sweet ass time. Anyways, it's my opinion. I think that at this point, I'm not seeing the makings for a winning case from Coinbase or a winning case for XRP. I'm just not seeing it. Anyways, let's continue on. So as the pro XRP lawyer is confident for their win, here's another article out of CoinGape. So as we saw in the other article, the lawyer who is pro XRP is obviously very confident of their win. But this article from April 24th, to me, kind of hints to something else. Like, I mean, if they're so confident, why are they hedging their bets, right? Ripple moving out of the US after Coinbase CEO drops hint. Several developments are hinting that Ripple Labs might also be considering leaving the US, like Coinbase is. Coinbase, the US's biggest crypto exchange, recently tipped off moving offshore. However, several developments are hinting that Ripple Labs might also be considering leaving the US. Meanwhile, Ripple's recent job postings have left the crypto community confused. The firm is offering around 66 roles. It is important to note that 46 postings are offered outside the United States. Meanwhile, 6 of the open roles offered in the US are several kinds of internships. However, Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse have earlier stated that they will move outside if they lose the legal battle against the SEC. Strange, though, because the lawyer is so confident that they're going to win because of what's happening with Coinbase. U.S. watchdogs, Securities and Exchange Commission, and Commodities Future Trading Commission have recently picked up the pace by suing the crypto exchanges and lenders like Kraken, Bittrex, and Gemini. I got to tell you, I'm not as fakely confident as John Deaton, the lawyer for XRP, for Ripple Labs. So I'm going to try to explain this maybe a different way. I've given this explanation several different times. So Ripple Labs is a corporation, okay? And they're hiring people to work for that company. Now, that company issues a token, much like Chuck E. Cheese issues tokens. So the kids in Chuck E. Cheese play games and they get tokens. Then when they get enough tokens, they can go and get a prize in the Chuck E. Cheese. But when they leave Chuck E. Cheese, those tokens, they're useless. You can't walk into the 7-Eleven and buy a drink with those tokens, okay? You can't take those Chuck E. Cheese tokens and turn them into, let's say, a Visa card, a MasterCard, or something like that to use in the legacy system. The only thing that you can do with those Chuck E. Cheese tokens is go back to Chuck E. Cheese and get yourself a prize or spend more tokens playing the games. Now, if you say to yourself, wait a second, that sounds like shitcoining, because it is. And the only place that shitcoins are valid is in the shitcoin casino. So look, guys, I know that there's a lot of people who think that, you know, Bitcoiners are all pro SEC and stuff like that. So to be perfectly honest, we're not pro SEC. And I've said this 1,000 times before. We just understand that if your token does not have the true qualities that Bitcoin has, then it will be stopped. And at that moment, when you come to that realization, usually the next step is, oh, Bitcoin actually is the only real thing and the only thing worth learning about, holding, and accumulating. The regulatory battle has only begun. My personal opinion is that I don't think Coinbase wins. Okay, I do think that they're just going to end up paying some massive fine, and that's going to be it, because that's how the system works. The system is entirely pay to play. I mean, take a look at FTX. Nobody even knows anymore what's happened. You know, at this point, it's like, is Sam really going to go to jail with all the money that he got from the Democratic Party? Who knows? Who knows? We're going to have to see how that plays out. But in past history, if we take a look at the mortgage crisis, nobody went to jail for that. And hundreds of thousands of people's lives were destroyed by the mortgage crisis. Businesses were shuttered from one day to the next. Lives were ruined and nothing happened to them. So if you think for a second that, you know, that people like this are just going to end up going to jail or something like that, no, they're not. They're just going to pay a fine. They're going to move on. XRP, for example, right? Well, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to pay a fine. Maybe their shitcoin disappears. Maybe not. But I'll tell you this. In no way, shape, or form does XRP ever become the standard. It does not. ISO 20022 already exists. Swift is not using the XRP network. Do you know what they did? They contracted another bank, which I showed in another video, to develop the fintech for them on top of ISO 20022. That's right, because anybody can develop against that standard. Anyways, guys, Bitcoin is the only real thing. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you all next week.